Hi, everyone. This is Objective 2 in Chapter 0. I'm assuming we got through some of this in class already, but I just want to go through and kind of demonstrate some of the things in case you forgot what we had done. What we are going to do is open up an Excel spreadsheet and we're going to enter this information. So I'm going to log into office.vccs.edu. I was already logged in a couple of minutes ago, so it didn't require my credentials. And I'm going to click on Excel and click on a blank workbook. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to take a look at what they're asking us to do. So briefly, what I am going to do is type in these headings in row 2, item quantity, cost per item, and cost. I'm just tabbing over. You can use your arrow keys. Notice how column D, you can't see everything. So what you can do is you can hover in between column D and E and double click, and it'll make column D wide enough to fit the heading that you've put in. And they've made that bold. So we're going to highlight. We're going to click and drag. Notice that the highlight doesn't look like it's highlighted in the first cell, but it is. And we're going to make that bold. Oops, wrong tab. Then we're going to put in column B, soda, water, popcorn, cookie, and hot dog. Oops. How could I forget the cookie? Okay, so those are our, we call them headings, those are our little headings. And we're going to put cost per item. We're going to enter that information. So we have $1, $1.25, $1.50. And I'm just going to type them in as decimals. See how it's not showing up the way it looks? We'll fix that in a minute. And I think that was $2.25, but let's double $2.75. And I did that wrong. That was 50 cents. Okay, so let's fix that. 0.5 and 2.5. Double check that. 2.75. Very not good at holding numbers in my brain. There we go. All right, so how can we make those look like currency? Well, what we're going to do, and I'll click off of that and show you again, we're going to hold down your mouse, your left button, and drag down. So you're just highlighting. And then we are going to make those currency. Now, they do a really nice job in Excel of making that easy to do by clicking on the down arrow, making those currency. That's really nice. Pretty cool. Those are still the numerical values. We've just made them look more meaningful in our spreadsheet. Okay. And then we've got some things to type in down below. In column D, we have subtotal, tax at 8%, and total. So that's cell D9 is subtotal. So I'm going to go down here to D9, subtotal, tax at 8%, and total. Okay, so you can see that, and they have these highlighted yellow and green. It's okay if you want to highlight those. You do not have to highlight those. I'll go ahead and do it. That way you can see. We're going to use the paint bucket. And we're going to make these yellow, and we're going to make these some shade of green. Adding these kinds of details to your Excel spreadsheet can make the spreadsheet more readable for others. Okay, so you can see what they're doing here. They're writing a formula that takes the quantity, the number of things, number of sodas that you want to buy, times the cost and gives you per item and gives you the total cost. So for example, if I entered 5 sodas, I would want to see $5 over here because that would be 5 times 1. So how am I going to write that formula? I'm going to click on the equal sign. That's how Excel knows you are writing a formula. Here's where you have some choices. You can either arrow back and not hit anything, just arrow back and select that cell, or you can type in C3 manually. I like to just arrow around because it's a little faster. So we want to multiply, so we're going to go to Shift 8, and then we want to multiply it by D3. So I'm going to arrow over to D3. Notice how it's highlighting that cell, and it's carrying the colors through. So you notice that C3 is highlighted in blue, and it has blue lettering. D3 is highlighted in red, and it has the red lettering. Once you've completed your formula, you can hit enter. Hit enter, and now we're seeing our $5. Okay. So what we can do with this formula, because it's always going to be this times this, this times this, we can not waste our time by writing that formula every time. We can let Excel do it for us by using the fill handle right here. Notice how I had this little plus sign, and then I had a hand, but when I get over here to this little box, it turns back into a plus sign, and I can click on it and drag it down. Now, why are these all saying 0? Like, wait a minute, don't they cost something? Well, I didn't put any quantities in. So let's put in 2 waters. There's your 250, 2 times 125. Let's put in, let's say we want to eat a lot of popcorn. Let's do 10 times 150. Let's do 1 cookie. So that should only be 50 cents. And let's do 2 hot dogs. So you can see that it is performing the math for you. Very helpful. Okay, so this is just explaining that, and I've posted this on Canvas. It's going over that in a lot more detail than what I'm doing, and it's talking about the fill formulas. Okay, so the notes are a little lengthy, but they do explain it very well in, how do I say it? Kind of in everyday language, if you will. Okay, so where we are is we still have not done the subtotal, the tax rate, that kind of stuff. Okay. So let's see here if there's more. Okay, so here's where we want to be with built-in functions. Built-in functions like adding numbers up in a column or finding an average of numbers in a column or row. These are already built into Excel. You do not have to write those formulas. They're really nice. So let's say, for example, that I wanted to find the subtotal, okay, for all of these things. This is like my family. We bought all this stuff, but how much before tax am I spending? The nice part about Excel is that they make it really easy to find that. And this is the same thing with Google Sheets. Here you see a summation. And most of you probably saw this at some point during Algebra 2, but right next to it's a little drop down. So you can see that they've given you access to some of the very commonly used ones, but certainly there are more. Okay, you can explore that. But what I want to know is I want to know the sum. So I'm going to click on sum, and you notice Excel is going to try to guess what numbers do I want to add up. It's trying to help me. Now I really don't want this row, so I'm going to highlight myself. I'm going to start here, click, and drag, and then that'll give me my sum. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Now, the way that we calculate the tax, remember tax is based off of our subtotal. So it's going to be 8% of our subtotal. So we're going to have to write a formula for this. So we're going to say equals. Now we want this number, our subtotal, times shift 8, 0.08. And keep in mind, it's a percent, so we need to use the decimal equivalent when we're multiplying. So we are paying $28.50 for the food. We are paying $2.28 for the tax. And then for our complete grand total, we're going to have to add these two up again. Here's where you can add them up with a formula, or you can go back to these built-in functions. If you just want the auto sum, you can click on it. Isn't that nice? And then you ignore what they're telling you, and you highlight what you want to add, and you know that you have a total of $30.78. Okay, so let's take a look. I think they're doing the tax rate a little bit differently than what I did, but they're showing you all that good stuff. Beautiful. And here are some other activities, that you can do to practice out using average, using count. Count just tells you how many are in that range. The minimum, the maximum, I don't think I have to explain that to you, what those are. So let's see. Naming a cell is like naming your dog. You don't really want to change the name. How do you unname cell E9? Well, what is cell E9? E9 is this cell. That's interesting. Is it named? Okay, so formula menu and name manager. And I'm not sure we're going to need that, so I will look for that. I think that's one of these, but if it's not, don't worry about that part. I will find that if we need it in the future. It's definitely not something I have even used once a day. Not sure why we would want to name that cell that. Okay, so those are built-in functions. And then charts. Let's see. We'll call this concert number. Well, I'm wondering if I'm going to do that in a separate video. I'll do the chart in a separate video. That way I can type in the information and save us a little time. Okay? Thanks for watching.